All right. I hope we're now live, so we'll kick this thing off. So first of all, I'm excited to present a little bit of a new series. It's an expansion or extension of our current series, but it's an OnTap Lite, so discussion series powered by Arctic Leaf. So for those of you who don't know, OnTap is more of like a larger scale webinar kind of series where we bring different merchants and partners and different personalities, quote unquote, in the e-commerce landscape, and we just talk about different subject matters. So Natalie was actually on one of the episodes all about data science and how it drives UX design and all of that kind of stuff. And so this is our first new series called OnTap Lite. So really much more getting an opportunity to talk or hear from Arctic Leaf employees and the staff and the different leaders here at the company. So first of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh Grelick. I'm the CEO and co-founder. And I love hosting this because I get to just be, a large personality and have a little fun. And I also get to learn a little bit in the process. On our show today, we have Natalie, our creative director. Do you want to quickly say hello? You're muted.
Sorry, my audio just went a second there, of course. Yeah, hi, I'm Natalie. I'm creative director here, and yeah, really excited to share with you today a little bit about what branding is, why it's important, and yeah, and also to have Anna on board to help with that. One of our awesome UI designers. If you want to say hi, Anna.
Yeah, please.
Hey guys, I'm Anna. Thank you so much for being just as excited as I am to get started on the presentation.
Oh, come on. You have to give a little bit more than that. No, I'm just kidding. So first of all, Anna's fantastic. The work quality, the work that she does here at the company is phenomenal. So we're really excited to have Anna on the show and talk a little bit about branding as a whole. So we'll kind of kick it off. So what are we talking about? But first, before we do that, because we're on tap, everything's about having a little beverage. So if you do have a beverage, go grab one. I'm drinking coffee today. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. No judgment, but we'll kind of kick it off. And so what are we going to talk about today? So something that's really exciting that you're on a different screen there, Katie. Yeah. So what we're going to talk about today is branding. What is a brand, right? We all hear about some phenomenal brands. We all know about some phenomenal brands. What really encompasses that, right? How do they foster that environment? How do they create something that is identifiable? Identifying clear brand goals and objectives. Part of that process is understanding your customers and competition. I think that it'd be kind of silly if you kind of went into marketing and you just didn't know who your actual competitors were. And then obviously we got to talk a little bit about Arctic Leaf and our philosophy on how we view branding and obviously what we can do for our merchants and customers in a branding format. So let's kind of kick it off. It is a 30-minute session, so I will kind of try to move pretty quickly here. So I apologize ahead of time, Anna or Natalie, if I cut you off and I'm like, we got to go.
That's fair.
So first things first, we've all seen this branding iceberg, but I kind of want to and it's really funny because of Arctic Leaf, it's all about the Arctic and it's just kind of funny. But Natalie, do you want to just kind of give us a quick walkthrough of what is the branding iceberg? You have brand identity, brand strategy, kind of give a breakdown a little bit and a high level overview, and then we'll kind of unpack that a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Anna's actually going to go over this one,
Oh,
Josh.
perfect.
Yeah.
There we go.
She put together the nice illustration and has a bunch of talking points on it. So yeah.
Awesome. Perfect.
Thanks, guys. So when you think of an overall brand, this whole idea can be really daunting. So I think that the best way to start it off is to identify what a brand is or what branding is. It's the process of creating a strong and positive perception of your company. So the way that you can kind of visualize it is like an iceberg, like Josh said. The identity are all the things that are visible, and the strategy are all the things that are invisible. So when we think of all the things that are visible, we think of colors, we think of logos, we think of typeface. And actually, when I was doing my research, I found a really fun fact that 62 to 90% of a product's first impression are determined by its colors. So if you want something a little bit warm and inviting, something eco-friendly, you might be thinking of like a light green, something that'll be easy on the eyes. And how do designers choose these colors and typefaces? Well, they go through a brand strategy. designers will do research on your competition as well as your customers to see how you can set yourself apart. Actually, we did a branding case study, which is on the next slide, which we can speak on how we switched.
Yeah. First of all, before you hop into that, I love that you brought up the color theory. And I don't think people have any clue on how much color plays into a brand, whether you pick, there's 400 different shades of purple, but like each one of those shades of purple can actually foster a different emotion or a different kind of feeling. So it really, like, when people think about building a brand, they really get into the nitty gritty details of like, how is the color going to affect my potential audience? So just wanted to point that out because I thought that was we had just talked about this whole color theory stuff the other day. So it's just super important to kind of bring up. So sorry, go ahead, Anna.
No, don't apologize. On that note, just to stay topical, on the Barbie movie, the amount of pinks that they went through, like their white isn't pink. It's a really, really light pink. And then they use that as the base for like set design, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So happy.
I know, it's great. So this is a case study that we did with a client called Vision Pros, and they specialize in contact lenses and glasses. And as you can see on the left side of the screen, we have the before image of their logo. It is on a white background with this dark blue and light blue, and it kind of evokes the sense of like professionalism, as well as it kind of reminds you of something within the medical field, which tick off all of the boxes for our client. But to be fair, it is a little bit traditional, and I think it can get lost in a bunch of other logos that sell the same things. Yeah, so when we went into it and did minor tweaks, all of these color changes are things that we researched on. Like, for example, this peach creamy color is just easier on the eyes and easier for dyslexic people to read, which is important because you're a vision brand and you want people to understand your information and your product. But yeah, so color styles and logos are all about being cohesive with your brand, and cohesion makes you feel more trustworthy. But Natalie will speak to more of that on the next slide.
Yeah. No, I think you guys crushed it on this. I know the client was very happy with the end product. And I know it's like, someone may look at this and saying like, really? Right? But there's actually a ton of research that went into this, and like customer communication. We actually interviewed customers to understand their brand, like how they perceive it. So, when someone thinks about branding, like, it's not just picking a word or a font. It's really trying to like, how do you stimulate the emotion that you are looking to drive based on your overall brand theory? So I think perfect segue into like, what is a brand and why is it important? Right. So Natalie, well, I think that this is a big one. So you got there's a lot of pressure here.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, we talk about this so much that actually like, it was like, oh, there's so much to say. How do we like put it into something concise? And, the biggest thing I would say is perception. So just going back to the Vision Pros example, they wanted to be perceived as more of a lifestyle brand. So if you look at the colors that we used there, it was a lot more tonal, friendly, whereas the colors beforehand, it was, like the bright red, the bright orange is very sale and like, oh, like all about price and that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't the audience that they were trying to target. So it really helps to kind of like, move yourself to where you want to be. Now, the thing is, perception, how much control over your brand's perception do you have? Well, people are going to think what they're going to think. The idea of branding is that you at least have like some sort of say in the conversation about your brand. I know it's like such a hot topic to bring up, but Twitter and their like rebrand with the X, like we were looking at like the different the changes, because there was first of all the X with the thin line, and now it has a slightly thicker
line. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like like there is so much noise, so much opinion about the brand of Twitter. So what could they do? What could any brand do to try and like own part of that conversation? I mean, Elon Musk has decided to make a bright neon sign on top of his building as part of that, and that's fun. But
he's just a
no,
troll.
yeah, exactly. But the big thing is kind of making sure that you first of all understand how people perceive your brand. So that's where the that beneath the surface, the user understanding, everything that comes in, what your competitors do or think of your brand as well. And not even just competitors, but people who would be like you'd be friends with them, they're in a different industry but they have the same values, kind of thing. So like maybe you're like an organic like oat milk, and then there's a brand that is in fashion but it's like sustainable bamboo. You guys would be friends, you're not like direct competitors, but that's the kind of thing you want to be looking at as well. So it's not just like your actual competitors, it's also who's doing similar stuff in different industries.
So it's potentially more about alignment, right? Is like, how do you align yourself with potentially other brands that are conveying the same type of messaging? Exactly. I think that's really, really, really great segue. I think that what is not a brand though. You have here logo, product, impression, promises. Do you want to just quickly, like 30 seconds, touch on that, because I know we're going to move over to the next slide that's going to talk a little bit about brand identity and brand goals. So like, why is logo not a brand? Like, that's the most oxymoronic thing you could say to me, Natalie. What the heck?
Because it can change. Like, so you can change your logo, you can change the colors you use, your products are going to change. Like, even the and all of that can change, but like the core of who you are as a brand is not those things. They are like little steps that make it up. It is like the perception of how people think of what you are. Like, I say Coca-Cola, you see it, right? You think it. And so you might think that it's the logo, but it's not. It's all of those small decisions, the Christmas adverts, the like the different, like when you had people's names on Coke bottles and things like that. It's all of those things that have made up that perception over time. So it's you have to know who you are and what you stand for, and then work with people like us, hopefully, who can help you with the rest of it, and tease it out of you, like all of those things. And I
think you brought up the Coca-Cola the Coca-Cola example. If you go thrift shopping or if you go antiquing, the amount of Coca-Cola merchandising products that are out there from like the 70s and 80s, it's crazy. Like, you have the Coca-Cola Polar Express, you have magazines, you have bottle caps, you have trucks and lunch boxes, and I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of merchandising that they did back in the day. You don't see that as much because everything's gone more digital, but it's just wild. But like, think about it, like just all of those products and stuff that's just out there, and it's so iconic, and they've just done a phenomenal job, right? So kind of segueing into brand identity and then obviously brand goals. I mean, we all know what Coca-Cola's objectives are, but Natalie, do you want to talk a little bit about what would be a brand identity? What would be a good brand goal? How do you achieve that? I see you got a couple of statistics here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I believe, shout out to Katie who found this one. So 2/3 of businesses say brand consistency has contributed to revenue growth of at least 10%. So that just kind of goes to show like how much of a big deal it is. Just to go back a second to Vision Pros, the brand we showed earlier, one of the reasons why they identified that they needed to look at their brand. They've been going for ages. They had a brand, they had a perception. They had about 4 or 5 different versions of their logos in current use across different different mediums. And I've seen it with a lot of brands where on Facebook they the tone of voice that they're using is totally different to the tone of voice that they use on their products, on their product pages and things like that. And if you don't know who you are as a brand, then like everything else is going to fall apart. But like, so it's like you've got your foundation, which is like who your brand identity is, what you stand for, what's your mission, what are your values, and you know, everything else from there is like built on layer by layer. So you then have like your verbal identity, how you communicate with your customers, and then you have your visual identity, which is, you know, like all of that idea, like the color theory, and as well, like, you know, there's, if you know who you are, it makes it really easy to make decisions as a brand, because it's like, you know, I am a terrible copywriter, and I was saying to Josh the other day that I was like,
you don't give yourself enough credit, by the way. So
no, it's no, because it's all hype. It's not good. But I said to Josh, I was like, can we put this joke into this this landing page that we're making? And he was like, no, Natalie, that isn't part of that doesn't go with our brand values. And he was right. Like, I was getting carried away and he was right. And it's easy for us to make those decisions when we know who we are as a brand. So, you know, Arctic Leaf, a year or so ago, Josh sat down with many members of the team and did an exercise so that we could nail down what our brand, you know, like our mission statement is and our brand values. And that means that now everybody in the company as well can be a better representative of Arctic Leaf, because, you know, if you don't know what to do in any given situation, like, you can think to those kind of like values and then from there make a decision. So one of them is, you know, accountability and teamwork. So, you know, if you're like pointing fingers and being like, oh, this person did this, then like, you know, that you're not like kind of going with the brand values, and therefore it's like you're not really making the right decision in that moment, even if there's no like procedure or handbook around it. So
very good call outs. Definitely something like we're always continuously iterating, right? We're always looking at our brand. I'm curious to hear from Anna, because I know that you were part of some of those exercises with the mission statements, product, services, not just, you know, touching, you know, client work, but actually working on internal products. So just kind of give me your point of view on, you know, the tangible steps of, you know, breaking down a mission statement or products, voice, things like that. 30 seconds.
Okay, got it. No
I'm kidding. You have more than 30 seconds. So.
That's so kind of you. So we have a client, actually. I know that you spoke on internal projects, but I was just thinking of one that we had. We had a client that came to us without any brand guidelines, she kind of just had the idea of what she wanted and then let us run free with her brand, her voice. And I think that like something that really helped was kind of a sliding scale that we gave her, like a quiz. So like, do you want to be more personable? Do you want to be a little bit more professional? And then being able to see that and visualize it, she was able to be like, oh, I want to be a little bit more personal. And from there, we're able to hone in on a mission statement, something that that company wants to move forward with, and the tone and voice that they want to move forward with as well.
Yeah. That was a fun project. I remember that one. It was, it's a really cool kind of like gift registry, all about like, you know, baby gifts and all that kind of stuff. So it was really like something that we had. It's super cool when we get an opportunity to really get our hands in defining the brand. Because again, like, you know, owners and business operators are so close to the brand, and this is why I think, you know, people hire agencies. Is they want an outside opinion. They want somebody who's going to come in there and actually say, "Wait a second, are you sure about that? Like, did you think about this?" Right? And part of that process is doing kind of a competitive analysis, right? Who is your actual competitors, right? How do you identify competitors? So I think, you know, Natalie, I want to ask you, because, you know, you're someone who's like, you touch so many different merchants, products, and companies, and like it's all just probably a blur for you at this point. But like, how do you identify competitors in the marketplace and competition, and like what's going to make you stand out a little bit from your competitors as well?
Yeah, so you know, you can you know, as I was talking about earlier, you want to look at like what differentiates you and what keeps you similar. So your competitors in the marketplace are going to be people in your same industry, but it's like who's closest to where you're at. Because, you know, if you are like a small Etsy shop, you're not necessarily competing with Amazon. in most spheres, right? Like, you know, potentially you are, but most of the time you're not. You're competing with other people at that same level. So it's looking there. So you want to look at, you know, directly around you. But the other thing I would say though is like you know, we usually we do it in several phases. We ask the client, who are your competitors? And we get one answer. And then we use that to set up hotjar surveys on the sites and be like, hey, do you buy this product from anyone else? And then we ask people, we ask directly, and like, you know, then you follow that along, like, you know, why did you choose that other one, or why did you choose this time to go with this merchant? And you know, you get different answers, and that is what tells you, because like if the answer is all about price, then that says that, like, you know, your customers are coming to you because of price. If they say, oh, customer service, then like, you know, you're then finding out what your customers perceive to be the most important things that you do. So like, you know, like that is basically like, that's your perception right there. So from there is where you need to move to actually be like, well, you know, I don't like that they just come to us because we're the cheapest, right? Which is, you know, like that's been, you know, because like then your margins are smaller. You don't want to just be known for that, because then also you put yourself in that bucket of you always have to be on a sale price. So then
but that's okay. But that's okay though if that's your brand. Like there's a company that we spoke to that sells $8 dresses. Everything on the website is $8,
and they're beautiful,
right? And they're gorgeous. But basically, the business model is that they take everything off that doesn't sell off the line that comes off in China and gets shipped, and basically everything's $8. Their cost on that's probably like 10 cents a piece. Right.
Yeah.
But they're known that everything on the website's $8. Like they're not going to sell to high-end luxury clients. Like that's not their ICP, that like, you know, customer profile. So I think it's just owning into that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the thing. So as part of that survey, you're identifying who is your customer. Right. So like the survey is the first step. You know, first of all, you do like a general thing, then you narrow it down, and then, you know, you actually get some hard data to go along with it. We talked about this more on the previous OnTap session with like the 0 party, you ask the direct people, like, you know, third party. But yeah, so Anna, I don't know if you have anything else to add in terms of the competitor analysis side of things and the user personas.
I think the only thing that I would want to add to this is even sharing this competitive analysis and buyer personas with the client as well creates a discussion between the two of you where you can move forward. And just wanted to note that this whole process is so collaborative and so important to get your client's feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with the baby registry one we were talking about, you know, like the client initially had an idea of like who her target audience would be. And it was actually really nice, because then when we interview people, it worked, right? Like her perception was correct in that case. So she wanted to make, you know, because on this you could set up a subscription for diapers, which isn't very glamorous, but it's super useful to the parents. But, you know, what does the gift giver want, right? Because they're a stakeholder too. It's not just the person receiving all the gifts, it's the gift giver. And the gift giver wants to feel like they've given a significant gift. Now, buying diapers is significant for the parents, but like you kind of feel a bit weird as a gift giver giving that. So like, you know, the whole experience needs to be elevated to make it feel like a nice gift giving experience, so that everyone there feels like they've done their part in that whole exchange. So it's like you have to really get into people's heads of like, you know, and part of the user journeys, so buyer personas is, you know, like looking at like making archetypes of the people that use your brand. But the buyer journey is at all of those little interactions, who's having those interactions, what are the different journeys they're going to take from there, and what are they trying to get at each stage, and are you meeting their needs?
No, it's all super valid points. I just want to point out, you had one call out here. Just because you like something doesn't mean your customer's going to like it. We literally had this example yesterday where we sat down with a client and they had all these amazing ideas, but it was a new brand that hasn't been on the market yet. And so we're all sitting there and saying, so I came in and I said, we don't know what we don't know. right?
Yeah.
So like, why spend time and money building something that we think we want versus we know we want? So it's like, let's focus on an MVP. Let's get you to market. Let's take a look at the data. And then we start analyzing the data. We do these competitive analysis. We do these buyer journey profiles. We understand your ICP or identified customer profile. And now you have data to back up those decisions that are actually being requested by your customers, rather than, I think this is a great idea and this may work, and it may or may not. And it's called scope creep for those of you who are newbies on the call. But we try to do that. One of the things we try to do at the company as part of our philosophy is try to prevent some of those scope creeps, right? And so how do you prevent some of those scope creeps is essentially asking questions, right? The power of asking questions and then sitting back and listening to those answers. Like, someone will tell you everything that you need to know. The problem is that we all want to talk, right? We all want to be the loudest person in the room. And part of understanding a brand is actually being the opposite. Is like, we're going to ask you a ton of questions, and we want all the answers, and we're going to record all that. We're going to intake it. We're going to analyze it, and we're not going to talk very much, right?
No.
So we have a couple of things that part of our philosophy. I'm gonna put Anna on the spot here. Talk a little bit about kind of our quizzes, the strategies, the creative delivery. So branding is a collaborative exercise. And if you want to pass anything off to Natalie, feel free to do so. But curious to hear your philosophy of what is Arctic Leaf's philosophy. Not your philosophy, but anyways, I'm going to stop talking. So
No,
words are hard on a Thursday afternoon, okay?
You're crushing it. I just wanted to point out on one of the things that you just said, that the more discussion that you have with your clients, it makes your clients trust you more and gives you a bigger fan base. Like, I know so many people that flock to Patagonia because of their environmentally friendly outlook on things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so actually, Natalie, did you want to take over this section?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So basically,
I put you on the spot, Anna. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, basically,
should have paid more attention in the prep meeting. So.
You're all good, Josh. You've had a busy week. Yeah, we so basically, if you're going to work with Arctic Leaf to do branding, probably set aside a good couple of weeks of time, not the whole time, but just like, it is intense because we are trying to get a lot of information out of our clients here with to nail things down, and we need to dig into stuff. Yeah, if you come and you already feel like you have a really good idea of who you are and you just want more help with the visual side of things, it'll probably go fairly quickly. But from most of these exercises that I've seen, there's usually a lot more beneath the surface that we need to dig into. And, our job is basically, we're facilitating your kind of discovery into who you are as a brand. So that means that all the stakeholders who want to have a say kind of need to be available at least for one or two of the sessions. But yeah, so that quiz kind of idea and the strategy game plan, that all happens up front, where we just really nail it down. Like, what are we actually trying to achieve with this exercise? And then we get to the part that I love the most, which is where we all go away and I, sit in my hole and just think of all the ideas
in the woods. In the woods.
No, I literally live in the woods, so I can just do this and hide myself away. And we come up with all the ideas of how we can take everything you've given us and turn it into something that's actually going to hit your goals. So, there's a lot to be said for just pure creativity, which is just I had an idea and now it is a thing. But that isn't what we're trying to do here. It has to be based on research, and that's the way that we can most likely guarantee that you're going to actually have a successful rebrand or new brand or whatever it is that it needs to be. So
it's quite an intimate process if you really think about it, right? It's like speed dating on steroids. So there's a lot of questions. Like, when I talk to someone as a prospect, it's like, what does the branding process look like? I'm like, expect to answer 100,000 questions potentially. I'm obviously being facetious, but answering hundreds of questions, and then probably some of the same questions asked just in a little bit of a different format to try to pull a little bit more information out, right?
Yeah.
So it's all this is fantastic. I mean, we could literally talk about branding for till the cows come home.
Yes.
But just kind of like just a quick recap, we are kind of 2 minutes over here. So just kind of like key takeaways, right? Brands go hand in hand with your business reputation. Remember that you have literally 0.05 seconds to establish that reputation. So thinking through who you want to be, the messaging you want to convey to your customers or your merchants or whoever it is that whatever you're selling. It doesn't matter if you're an accountant, a lawyer, or you're an e-commerce company selling a product, Nike, right? They all have a certain business reputation. Great design can make or break a brand, right? It really does. Can have great good design is one thing. Having great design is something that can elevate your brand significantly, helping with that reputation component. Being acceptable, being there to answer questions and identifying that mission statement. What is the goal? What's your objective? What are you trying to accomplish? That emotional response, because again, people are willing to buy when they have emotional response, right? Authenticity and values, making sure that, Anna, you brought up the Patagonia piece. It's not just Patagonia. There's tons of brands now that are completely latching onto the eco-friendly component. It's definitely an important topic that is out there, right? And some merchants, some customers are only going to actually buy from those customers, from that companies that have established that they're going to be making an environmental impact, right? So, which is totally fine. That's how they want to identify as their brand identity and their persona and who they're captivating and who their customer and audience is, right? And I have the utmost respect for those brands because if you think about it, they actually know exactly who their customer base is, right? So pretty important. And then one of the most important things you can do in your business is to develop brand consistency. And this is something that even Arctic Leaf strives to be better at. As your brand evolves over years, I mean, we're in business now 13 years, which is crazy to think about. And, if I showed people the evolution of our brand from when we first started, Arctic Empire, which is a small game development company that merges with an e-commerce company out of California, and Arctic Leaf is lo and behold born. Like our brand has evolved drastically over the last several years, and it's still evolving, right? But I think one of the things that Natalie, you and I have talked about is it's striving for that consistency piece.
Yeah.
And it's so important, so important. Otherwise, people come there and they're just confused. Like, who are you marketing to, right? Are you selling me a $10 phone case, or are you selling me, a $4,000 ski jacket, right? Like, it's really like you have to be like the messaging has to be consistent. Your social comms have to be consistent. Your press releases have to be consistent. So just something that like even if you're unsure, just making sure that your brand messaging is consistent across all channels will definitely help along the way. Well, that was a lot of information that we just unpacked in 30 minutes. How do you guys feel about that?
That was so much, but I could, as you said, Josh, I could continue for ages. I mean, we were joking the other day, but not so joking. An entire like chat about fonts would, like I'd love that. But I don't know if everyone else would.
I think you'd have some PTSD from the fonts conversation that we've recently been having. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much, Anna. Amazing. We definitely have to have you back on the show. I don't think you talked enough, which is probably my fault, so I apologize. But super thank you, Anna, for joining us. I love that you volunteered and wanted to share some of your thoughts and experiences at the company and what you do here. Obviously, Natalie, huge thank you to you for sharing your insights and giving some guidance on some of the things that people should look at when they start thinking about branding. I am going to give a little plug here. Arctic Leaf does have a branding package and a branding offering. So definitely it's something new that we launched earlier this year. We're actually going to have something called express branding packages that are going to be on our website that you can just buy right off. It's going to be very, very clear, concise offering for whether it's a new startup or someone that's just looking to expand. So definitely take a look at that. But I do want to thank again Anna and Natalie for joining me. Huge thank you to our internal marketing team, Katie and Nicole and Hannah, who work behind the scenes to put all this stuff together, and hope to do more of these. So without further ado, I raise my glass and I say, Salut, l'chaim, cheers,
Cheers, Josh.
whatever works for you. So cheers, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.